Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. And we will go ahead and approve those. We've got our initial brief for this morning is our financial results from March 31st, although we'll have a couple unfavorables. Please keep in mind that that we are nimble, we are very flexible, and one thing's for sure and two things for certain, we are very much in control of these expenses and have forecasted accordingly.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Clark.
You're
We're going to start off with the financial results, and just to frame everyone here, keep in mind that the largest revenue item that we have, the sales tax, that is still booked to budget for this month. We're still waiting on the figures from the state of Ohio. Start off with our summary here at the top. Our total revenue came in at $14.3 million, which was slightly unfavorable to our budget. The primary drivers for that were lower fare revenue, along with a little bit lower investment income than what we had expected. Going through our expenses, they came in at $13.7 million. Those were favorable or under what we had budgeted by about $785,000. The big driver on that one, we have two pieces that really drove the three, actually. One is our vacancy rate was around 12% versus our budgeted rate of 7%. Also, we had a change in our workers' comp and medical accrual. We received some final figures that came in, earlier this year that were after we had done the budget, so we had to revise that downward, actually, which is good news for us. And then the final item is just a little bit less spending. Some timing of our expenses are there. When you net those two, you can see we had a profit of about $600,000, which is $649,000 actually, which was favorable to the budget by about $540,000. All good news there. Ridership came in slightly under the budget. There's going to be more on this in the ridership report, but the good news is that it was greater than last year at this time. Going into some more details on the total revenue. The operating revenue, as I mentioned, was slightly unfavorable. The $137 you see there to budget is the fare revenue. Non-transportation came in about $600,000, which was slightly unfavorable to budget. That was just lower investment income primarily. You can see the final two items, sales tax and grants, coming in right on budget. Going down now to our expenses, you can see, as I mentioned before, the wages and benefits, favorable to budget, same details as I gave before. Fuel and lubricants were less than what we had budgeted, primarily with just lower miles and being driven. Parts and supplies were a little higher than what we had expected for this month. And then all other was favorable. So net, we're managing our spending, as Ms. Clark said, and which is good news here. If we go to the, as we all know, this is my favorite page. We'll start first with, when you look at our ridership numbers at the top, you can see that, under budget for both the month and the year slightly. But one item I want to point out is on the fare revenue. You can see that the ridership numbers are down about 8% on the regular ridership. The fares are down about 15%. For those two items, it's a bit of a timing with how we sell our pass fares and book our revenue. And those normally would be moving somewhat in line with one another. But if you look to your right, you'll see on the year-to-date figures, both of them are down 10%. So that kind of makes sense there. We had an aberration here in this month just due to timing. Going down the list here, I really want to point out one thing. If you go to the bottom right, you can see that year-to-date, we have an operating capital contribution of $436,000, which is better than our budgeted number of a negative $841,000. So we're positive to our budget by almost $1.3 million, keeping in mind that we still have to wait for the sales tax numbers to come in. But one thing I do want to, while we do have a lot of red here, the bottom line is in the black. And want to point out to the group that this is the third straight month that we've outperformed our budget. So while a lot of the items here are booking to the budget on the revenue side, on the expenses, this is really showing that we're able to manage our expenses and manage those appropriately. Next slide, Natalie. This is the standard slide that we have with our county sales tax. You can see that the last 3 months presented we're booking those to budget. As I mentioned, we should be getting the figures from the state here in a few days. but right now we're booking to the budget. Next page, Natalie.
Hey, Tim.
Yes.
We
Mr.
should
Metz.
be getting sales tax numbers back for the end of calendar year 24. Is that accurate? So these numbers are,
The numbers for 24 are accurate.
that December number's really positive.
It was very positive.
Okay.
That one exceeded our budget. So when you look at the 3 months, Mr. Metz, you can kind of see that while we were up 9% in December, if you look at October, November, December, because we had an up month, a down month, and an up month.
Yeah.
The net benefit there compared to budget was about 4%. So it was trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's unclear on the timing of those, Mr. Metz, but it was a great month to see that in December. And thanks for pointing that out for us.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. If you go to the next page, thank you, Natalie. This is the standard page that we go through that shows while we have $156 million, not all of it is something that we can spend tomorrow. We have commitments, and we've detailed out the commitments down below. It's really the same figures, close to the same figures that we've seen from the last couple months. And that's all I have here. Any questions from the group here? All right, thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Walker. Our audit observations, Mr. Norman Bowie, please. Did I pronounce that correctly? Is it
Good morning. So I thought I don't present often. It's probably the last time I'm going to present to Darryl, so I thought I'd dress up for him.
I see
so-
the
publicly
bow
want
tie
to
and everything.
publicly wanted to thank him for the opportunity to be the director, turn out his vision, allowing Larry to hire me, allowing Tim to keep me. So appreciate everything he's done for me. So moving forward with the agenda for internal audit update, we want to go over just our prior audit observations, how well we've done at remediating those, and showing some of our current and upcoming audits. If you want to move forward, next slide, please. One more. So year to date, since 2022, we've had 17 audit reports issued, a total of 58 observations. As you can see, most of them have been moderate, but we have a few that were high and bulk of them were low. Out of those that we've been issued, 88 of them have been fully remediated. Next slide, please. So to date, we have two that are coming off the list for vendor management audit, and they were cleared up actually back in at the end of January. And we still have two currently outstanding with the vendor access monitoring and internal environment, which procurement is working diligently to get those cleared up and remediated as well. Moving forward, just showing what we're currently working on, accounts payable audit. We're kind of in the final stages of that, so we should have that report ready to issue by the end of this month, as well as badge access security. We're working on the final stages of that report as well. Fair media sales, we're currently moving forward with that one. That one should be wrapped up sometime by the end of May. Next slide, 2 slides. Upcoming, we're getting ready to kick off our fixed assets audit as well. And our team will do that internally, and then also Clark Schaefer, who we still use for assistance. They'll be working on our fuel hedging and our Paycor third-party audit. So those are the current audits that we have going on at the moment and what we have upcoming. Any questions or comments about anything presented? All right, so we'll kind of move on to some of the good stuff. We'll first start with our Bridgestone tire contract audit recap. First, I want to thank Bill and his team, Jeff, and all those for their assistance in a successful audit. I think we uncovered a lot. We saw a lot, and I think they're doing a lot of things to help the company and the whole relationship with Bridgestone be a lot better. So if you want to move to page 5, please, and we can just got a quick background of the Bridgestone for those who aren't familiar. So SORTA entered a 5-year, $5.15 million agreement with Bridgestone in January for the leasing and servicing of bus tires. And the agreement outlines monthly and bi-monthly tire inspections, inventory tracking, safety compliance, and invoice accuracy. So our objective with the team was to assess the compliance with the contract terms, the accuracy and completeness, the financial transactions, and the adequacy of performance, monitoring, and record keeping. So within our scope, we reviewed the contract terms, performance documentation, and invoice. We verified inspection logs, staff qualifications, and safety protocols. And we also tested compliance with the number 2 Code of Federal Regulations 200.334, which is has to deal with record retention. You want to move forward to page 6. So first observation, and which we deemed as high, had to do with the performance monitoring and reporting. Bridgestone failed to perform monthly tread depth inspections for 100% of the fleet at both garages. Bi-monthly tire pressure checks were inconsistently performed, and some follow-ups were delayed by an average of 57 days. The risks, safety hazards due to undetected tire issues, contractual noncompliance, increased service disruptions, and operational inefficiencies. So our recommendation for them was to enhance their inspection tracking, enforce contract terms, and schedule performance review meetings. Also consider penalties for repeated noncompliance. So Bridgestone and SORTA are actively working. They acknowledge the gaps. They understand the challenges. Some of it had to do with just increased maintenance on the buses during certain times of the month and lack of staff. But overall, they're working to collaborate and have an action plan. And if you have questions about where that is, we can follow up with Jeff Munstock for that one. But that was the first major observation with the Bridgestone. You go to page 8. Our second one was more informational only, which requires not a management response, but just something to consider as we move forward to improving. But 2 of the 5 sample performance reports were missing. And although invoice records were accurate and complete, they just didn't have the documentation to verify. And the risk, potential noncompliance with public records, laws, and audit, or legal inquiry limitations due to missing documentations are some of the risks associated with that. Of course, our recommendation was establish a documented process to periodically review and verify Bridgestone's submission of key performance records. And as again, no formal response was required, informational only. And so that concludes the Bridgestone recap report. Any questions, comments about anything noted?
I'll let you go.
All right.
So thank you very much for doing this. Incredibly important. Obviously, tires are critical for safety. And hearing that Bridgestone is not inspecting them is a huge concern, right? And I don't know if I'm overstating it.
Yeah, I want to clarify. So they are inspecting, and Jeff can attest to that they're inspecting, but the contract requires a certain number of inspections per month. So for each bus. So basically we audited, and they provide the records of their inspection. And if you look at their reports, they weren't 100%. And so they should be 100% according to the contracts and those regulations, and they weren't for whatever reasons. Jeff, do you want to come provide any additional comments?
Yeah, so nothing was, the fleet wasn't in danger of having, bad tires on it. It was just a matter of there was a certain number of tires that they were missing or a certain number of buses they were missing and inspecting on a monthly basis. And we've met with them since Norman's team found these findings. We've had multiple meetings with them to get them back on track and get the reporting back to us on a regular basis so that we can make sure they're getting everything inspected monthly.
And the other part of my question is, we're inspecting vehicles regularly too, right?
Correct.
So we would notice if there were significant problems in the tires.
Right, and that wouldn't be reflected on any of their reporting. If we see something on our inspection, we send it to the tire bay. There's no report for that. It's just a transaction we do in the offices daily. So, nothing was in danger of going out on the road not safe. It's just a matter of their reporting and their processes. And they had some leadership changeover over the years at Bridgestone, so some of this got lost in the shuffle, and we're getting back on track with that.
Still a good, I'm sure we put that in the contract with them for a good reason.
Right.
So it's essential that we push them to do that. But I wanted to make sure we were addressing the safety for
Yes, we are.
operations. Great, thank you.
Thank you for that. So with the contract, though, how long have we had this contract, or how many times has it been renewed with Bridgestone?
I believe this contract has been renewed since the mid-'90s. It's a big deal with when you get a new contract with a tire company, they have to factor in the run out of the tires. So say another tire company comes in and bids on it, they got to factor in that Bridgestone is still going to run out their contract. So it reflects pretty big on other contractors bidding on it. So the pricing is usually pretty high. So Bridgestone has historically won the contract over the years. So they've been with us. Like I said, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I believe it's since the mid-90s. We've had a great relationship with them. Again, it's just mostly just changeover in leadership with Bridgestone and trying to get things back on track with the reporting.
We're paying for a service that they've not completed, that they're not being compliant on. So when we move to the next phase, because I'm quite sure they're going to be awarded another contract, what will that look like? Is there any recommendations on having any language different, or any negotiating on costs in since they're not being compliant with the contract? Like, if I'm in compliant with the contract with one of these schools, they're like, oh, well, hey, well, it doesn't happen. But if it were to happen, it hasn't happened in personal experience, but if it were to happen, then now they can come back and say, well, you know what? You're not going to get $800 for that class because X, Y, and Z, or you didn't do that pre-assessment or this or that or whatever. That can affect my next round of contract
Right.
acquisitions with them. So how are we moving forward in terms of a plan or a thought process on that?
So again, it's been noted. We've met with them multiple times, and then we will get with our procurement department and make sure that's noted contractually too. So moving forward, when we do go out for bid, it's documented that this has been an issue, and we need to put that in the work scope for next time of more stringent approach to them reporting to us, whoever the vendor is.
We can also add penalties to the next
That's
contract.
what I like. I like a little penalty. Sometimes you gotta spank people, make them do what you need them to do.
So this may be a broader question, like for all of our contracts, but when vendors don't deliver or don't perform to the work scope, do we have a policy around not paying them until that is done? And I also realize, this may be a case where Bridgestone may be really the only competitive person in this area, so
Right.
we got to figure out a way to work with them. But what's the philosophy on that?
Yeah, John, can you speak to the vendor performance management function? We recently added staff to procurement for exactly this issue, vendor performance. John, can you address that?
Absolutely. Every procurement currently has a complete team of after award performance monitoring, and our team works directly with the project management team for every contract to make sure vendors are performing under the requirements of the contract. If a vendor doesn't perform, it's a two-step process. The first is obviously to review invoices of what they've billed us for relative to what they actually performed, step one. Step two is, what did the requirements of the contract call for under that particular invoice for that particular period of time. And if we find deficiency or default with their performance, we have an informal meeting with them and the project team to try to get them back on track. If the informal meeting is unsuccessful, then we go into a formal corrective action program where we issue a cure letter. We give them time to address the deficiencies through a corrective action plan. And then if we accept the corrective action plan, we monitor their implementation for that plan. If they still remain unsuccessful, then we move directly to contract termination.
I'd also like to mention that department is relatively new in our procurement department, and it's the other reason why we set up internal audit team, because we used to only do external audit for a much smaller number of things that we audit. We are auditing a number of things internally to make sure things like this don't happen. And both the internal audit and the department and procurement are both relatively new departments for this reason.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a very solid plan. The reality is we all know things are going to happen in procurement with our suppliers, and that's normal, and it's not bad faith on anyone's part. My big concern is, if it becomes a pattern, at what point do the invoice payments stop? And it sounds like you have a process for that, so that we're not paying for work that we haven't received or haven't received appropriately.
That's correct. There's a review process for invoice relative to contract requirements.
Thank you so much. I think you all have done a fantastic job. I don't, in my years, I don't recall hearing an audit on our tire contracts, and so it's a good job and great fiscal oversight. So I really appreciate the work. Thank you so much.
You'll hear about a lot more moving forward. That's why we added the department.
Very necessary department. It's not just a department to add a department. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, Norman, I'll let you continue with ridership.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we're going to do our ridership audit recap. And first and foremost, I want to thank Khaled and his team for the pleasure to dig into the ridership report, but also thank you for the assistance he provided. And I don't think Steve Anderson's here, but him, Mark Simon, and UTA. We got a lot of good information to share, and I think we're moving SORTA Metro in the right direction. So I want to move forward to page 6, please. Again, just a quick background. So ridership data is essential for evaluating service performance, route planning, and federal reporting through the National Transit Database. Metro uses an automated passenger counting system for fixed route ridership and complementary systems like Trapeze, Via, Voc, and GFI fare boxes. So our objective for this engagement was to verify the accuracy and completeness of ridership counts and assess internal controls over data collection, system access, and NTD reporting. So our scope, we reviewed APC, Farebox, and data for the fiscal year, assessed user access controls, NTD submission timelines. We also evaluated internal controls, supporting data integrity, and reporting. We'll move forward to page 7. So we have 4 observations that were deemed high through low and 2 that were informational only. First observation with and if I'm moving too fast, please tell me to slow down. If you have questions, just hold those to the end, please. The APC diagnostic management. So our observations with that ones, we know that APC errors detected by UTA system were not consistently reported to maintenance for a resolution. The risk could be inaccurate ridership reporting, FTA noncompliance, and flawed decision-making due to unreliable data. Recommendation, automating reporting APC areas strengthen follow-up procedures and provide regular staff training. The management response, the staff agreed to automate error reporting via UTA and enhance coordination with maintenance. Observation number 2, pages 8 through 9, has to do with ridership count accuracy. So we observed and we took routes, tested trips, and the major observation with the ridership count, operators and supervisors boarding, doing layovers were miscounted as riders, which could influence the numbers to be higher than anticipated. Risks, financial misstatements, planning inefficiencies, and inaccurate data. Recommendation, train staff to minimize unnecessary boardings and integrate the driver's seat sensors to filter counts that shouldn't be included in ridership. Management, we have installed the driver's seat sensors and are working to integrate this data into UTA software by the Q3 2025. Pages 9 through 10. We had unauthorized system access. So observation, terminate employees retain access to Trapeze, Via, Voc, and UTA systems. The risks, data breaches, manipulation of ridership data, and security threats. Recommendation, implement quarterly access reviews, revoke access immediately upon termination, and sync HR and system access. Management response, some accounts appeared in reports due to group memberships, but were in fact disabled. And Metro, moving forward, will work with IT to obtain access to audit user accounts in UTA. Observation number 4, pages 10 through 11. We noticed 6 of 12 monthly fixed route reports in the annual report were submitted late to NTD. The risks, potential FTA funding loss, regulatory scrutiny, and reputational harm from noncompliance. Recommendation, assign responsibilities, set internal calendar reminders, and ensure coordination with Speedy to meet deadlines. Management response, finance has reassigned responsibility and will work closely with the Speedy team to avoid future delays. The last 2, which are informational only, revenue reporting validation, pages 11 through 12. Revenue was recognized at the time of purchase, not usage, limiting the ability to validate ridership counts with information. Risks, financial discrepancies, reduced transparency, and the inability to reconcile revenue to ridership. Recommendation, upgrade the farebox system to recognize revenue based on past activation, not sale. Again, information only, no formal response. And the last one was demand response under reporting. So observation, companion and PCA rides which personal care attendant, were not included in NTD demand response data. Under reporting could affect federal funding and compliance with NTD guidelines. Recommendation, just revise reporting process to include all eligible riders and conduct regular audits to ensure accuracy. Again, this is information only just due to the fact that the amount of demand response riders are immaterial, but still something we just want to consider. We want all our riderships recognized. So that concludes the ridership report. So open to any questions or comments from the board.
Going back to page 9, observation 3, do we have examples of terminated employees actually trying to access these systems, and what threat that leaves to Metro?
It's how much there wasn't an employee that was terminated that had access for several months. The threat, I don't believe it was a risk where he could change data, but he had the ability to review the data and present it, to the public if he wanted to. So it was oversight.
Okay. So he had access, not tried to access.
Yes, he did have access.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. But as soon as it was discovered, it was removed immediately. So, but yes, that was correct.
And just to follow up on that, one of the things that the IT folks typically do with our systems is that they tie their overall access to our environment to all of the subsystems. And this was a subsystem that also wasn't connected to the overall environment. And so we're making sure that we're connecting all of those subsystems. So when if my email address and my status at Metro changes, it changes across the board with every subsystem as well. So this was one that was not in that list and now is, and we're also looking at all the others.
Again, great work. My quick question would be, how long will it take, or what's the timeline for implementation on the recommendations?
I'll let if you want to speak about the user sensor interface.
The staff is currently working with Vantas vendor to tie the driver's seat sensors to the data. They've been working on this for the past few months. There's some issues right now with the implementation of that, but they're working through that with the vendor. We hope that all of that will be resolved by end of Q3 this year.
Okay, thank you.
Quick question. If an APC malfunctions, does it over-report or under-report or a little bit of both?
It could be either,
Okay.
depending on how it's malfunctioning, right? But it could be either way. But the good thing, and just to maybe to get a little bit nerdy on this.
Go for it.
Blake is so excited.
You are in such great company.
Well, I started my transit career 30 years ago as the APC coordinator at COTA in Columbus. So the APCs, so you have the two pieces to it. You have the hardware that counts people getting on and off at the doors. And then you have the software piece. The hardware are almost never 100% accurate in any APC system. And as a consultant, I've deployed literally every APC system under the sun. What we have is one of the best, actually. So they're almost never 100%. They can get 95, 98, 99% in terms of counting people getting on and off. The key to the APC system as a whole is the software piece. So the software, if it is built in a smart way, and the software we have from UTA is the best by far in the industry. So it takes all of this, on counts and the off counts, looks at it in terms of each trip by day, by time, and so on. And then it's looking at patterns and trends. If something is out of whack, just to use a very, 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 very simple example, if the ons on this particular trip from one end to the other, we had 57 people getting on and 25 people getting off, well, there's a problem there. So it throws that data out. It doesn't use it in the calculations. So there's a kind of like a tolerance in there, but it goes beyond that. Sometimes we don't, the APC may be out on a particular bus and we're not sampling a particular trip on a particular day. So the software will extrapolate or interpolate depending on the missing data to make up for that. So there's a great deal of cleaning of the data and analysis going on, so that at the end, when you run the report, like what's the ridership for this month or for that particular day, it gives you a pretty good, accurate number of what that ridership is. So it's not just the mechanical count of how many people get on and get off. What goes behind in the software is as important. So we are confident, and we do, to be able to use the APC system for reporting to the federal government, the NTD, we have to go through a rigorous certification process. So a statistician is hired, professional one. We collect manual data that's compared to the digitally collected data, the electronically collected data, and then through some rigorous statistical analysis done by a third party, the numbers have to match within about 3-4% tolerance. Only then FDA will accept our system as certified and will accept the data from that point on. We have to go through that process once every 3 years.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for all of that information that you've provided, Norman. I don't believe we have any more questions.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Our action item, the approval of investment funds report. Would this be a voice vote?
Well, I'll go through it real quick first, Ms. Clark. This is definitely not as exciting as the ridership information, but this is the same report we've looked at the last couple of months. We've put the operating fund and the infrastructure on the same page, side by side. You can see the operating fund, we're at close to 156 million. Infrastructure fund, close to 140 million. Yields are pretty consistent with what we've seen in the past and with each of the funds. The one thing you can see, the operating fund, we had a net decrease in cash during the month, while on the infrastructure fund, a net increase just due to some lack of spending there. Any questions on this before we get this approved?
Okay.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. What? Oh, I'm so sorry. Could I get a motion, please, Neil?
So moved.
Second by Pete. Pete and Sarah come in and sliding in. And then, could I, I'm sorry? Okay, you're going to do it. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. All right, all those in favor, please say yay.
Aye.
Oh, aye.
Yay.
Yay? I like yay, personally. All those opposed, say nay, please. Okay, we are moving forward with the approval of the investment funds report. I don't have any new business unless anyone has any. Okay. We will adjourn then at 9:04, and I'm sure we'll roll right into the next meeting, maybe give ourselves 5 minutes? A couple minutes? Anybody needing coffee refills? Okay. All right, roll in.
Yeah, if it's okay with you, we'll roll right in to our next meeting. I'm sorry to start the meeting 4 minutes after our slotted time, but we had a robust discussion. We had a good, robust discussion in the previous meeting, so thank you. Okay, so we will not, we're calling this to order, but we'll not do the Pledge of Allegiance since we've done that already. Our previous meeting was on March 18th. Hopefully you've had time to review the minutes in your packet. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting. Ms. Clark moves to approve. Ms. Sheets seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Thank you. Opposed? Okay. The minutes are approved. Okay. We have several briefing items today. A lot of good news from the executive team, highlighting some individuals. Also, the Metro APTA Security Award, which is really nice to see in there. So Andy also was a featured speaker down at Union Hall talking about the future of Cincinnati. And I think Andy led that discussion, providing a good forward-looking vision for the community. So thanks for doing that. But I'll turn it over to Ms. Hairston.
Good morning. Here to present your February Silverwheel Award winners, starting with Leadership Award, which is Wayne Strunk. Wayne is a maintenance fleet facility supervisor. He's over our fare systems and also assists in the body shop when needed. and is just being recognized for his great dependability and the great customer service that he provides, especially as it relates to our TVMs. Next, we have administrative support employee, Tanisha LaFleur. Tanisha is actually the executive assistant to our own CEO and to our deputy general manager, and also to our and also to our chief of staff. So she's got multiple roles and multiple individuals that she's supporting, and she's just being recognized for the hard work that she does and how she anticipates challenges and is able to prioritize competing priorities, trying to manage 3 calendars for 3 busy individuals, and just executes everything very flawlessly. So congratulations to Tanisha. Next, we have our Queensgate operator of the month, Wayne Shaw. Wayne Shaw is a 20-plus year employee with Metro, and he's being recognized for his dependability and how he performs his duties above and beyond, and his focus on customer service. Wayne recently voluntarily gave a passenger who boarded his bus his coat. The passenger boarded the bus with no coat on, and it was the dead of winter and pretty cold, so he gave the passenger his coat. And he also regularly, during the winter months, carries a duffel bag full of gloves and hats that he passes out to kids that get on the bus without gloves and or hats so that they can stay warm throughout the winter. So again, just some of the great work our operators are doing out there with the community. Next, we have Queensgate maintenance employee, Anthony Worsham. Anthony's just been recognized for his focus to ensure that all of his work is done complete, and he's a team player and understands the needs of both his internal and external customers. So congratulations to the Queensgate staff. Next, we have Bond Hill operator of the month, Mike Casanelli. Mike is over 30 years with Metro and is famously known as Singing Mike. Mike sings throughout the day on his bus to the customers to their pleasure, and they look forward to that when they get on Mike's bus and how he sings to them. And so he's being recognized just for his exceptional on-time performance and excellent customer service. And so then we've got Bond Hill maintenance employee, Jacob Sparks. And Jacob's being recognized for his excellent performance in extra duties that he does regularly. He's a team player and creates just a great positive work environment. And then last, we have access employee of the month, Merwin Dooley. Merwin is being recognized for performing his responsibilities well above expectations with 90% plus on-time performance and just the great customer service he provides. So congratulations to those silverware winners.
And moving on with some more good news, at the APTA Mobility Conference 2 weeks ago, we won a security award, and this was a certificate of merit and recognition of our ongoing security program led by Mike Weil and Brett Isaac. We basically compiled a list and a report and an application of all of the things that we do to maintain security for our employees, and received this recognition in front of all of our peers. The room was packed. It was also the rodeo, so we had lots of operators and mechanics, and of course, so we got a lot of recognition, and that was really, really nice to see. So congratulations to Mike and Brett and the whole operations team.
Yeah. All right. We'll keep the applause going. Congratulations to Khaled Shamut. We all know Khaled as a man of incredible vision and innovation, certainly in the transit industry. He's recently been promoted to the level of deputy, and his title reflects these traits. Khaled has been instrumental in so many strategic projects here, cannot be overstated. His great work and his team's great work implementing the Reinventing Metro service improvements and all those plans. Congrats, Professor, Deputy of Innovation and Vision. All right, and our Andy Aiello was on the panel mentioned by Dan, hosted by the Business Courier to discuss the future of Cincinnati and transit's role in that bright future. Andy, a few things to say about it?
Well,
Thanks, John. I think what is amazing is that the region recognizes, by assembling this panel, that transportation is a key to the future of economic development and growth in our region. I think that alone is a win, and it's really easy to talk about all the great things going on at Metro. So we should be proud of what we're doing, not just, as Daryl says, not just to change transportation, but to change the region.
And I have to just piggyback. That was an excellent panel. I will say that Andy was the most concise and informative, seriously, panelist. When you talk about asking direct questions and actually answering and having the whole spirit of Metro behind it, people were like, ooh, And I think there was even a clap or an acknowledgement of some sort with one of the answers. So it was excellent.
I think it was my Flintstones reference, but we'll leave that one alone for there.
That was solid. That really was. All right. Next up, so the Ohio Department of Education requires school districts to have business advisory councils. So these are local partnerships of engaged business leaders that come together to improve the student learning experience. And CPS has achieved an excellent rating, a 4-star rating for its Business Advisory Council. And at Metro, we're happy to be a part of it. Recently, Mike Wilms, Maria Jones, and Elaine Hips led a tour of over 30 Dater high school students from their supply chain and logistics program. Talk about great quality education and training at a high school level. So they came to Metro, toured our facility, and got a very hands-on, real-world experience of how you can put that learning to a career path. So thank you to Mike, Maria, Elaine, and the Metro team. This is just another example of how Metro continues to partner with and give back to our community. We also recently hosted small business training. Our procurement team partnered with the Small Business Administration and the Minority Business Assistance Center to train small businesses on how to access capital. We had over 70 attendees, our largest so far. These trainings continue to provide incredible value. Our next is on April 30th at the Red Cross. We'll certainly touch on topics, certainly to include how to partner with the organization on the BRT project. So much opportunity there for local small businesses. Thank you, John and team. Well done.
Good morning. We are continuing our outreach and engagement on the Metro Rapid project, and we held more than a dozen meetings over the last month and a half, and now we're going to go back out to the community and say, here's what you told us, here's the feedback that we collected, did we get it right? And so we'll be sharing the information that we heard from the community for a final review, if you will, on the station names and locations and some design elements. So here are the dates of those meetings that we invite the community to come to and give us another round of feedback, as engagement is critical to the success of this project. And we'll also be at some community events in May. And so if anyone who maybe haven't had a chance to come out and hear about the project so far, they're welcome to attend and get any questions they may have answered and continue to engage with us along the way. Opening day, it was a home run for Metro. We, as you know, we offered free rides on our fixed route and our access paratransit. We wanted to encourage the community to give us a try and see how easy it is to use Metro every day, but also on game days. And so we were excited to see that 46,000 trips were taken on our fixed route service alone, which was a 27% increase over an average day. And it was more than 5,000 trips that were taken from last year's opening day. So we're seeing even more people come out and give us a try. And as you'll see in the picture here, our little bus EV was a crowd favorite in the parade. And we're very grateful for all the Metro staff and family and friends who joined us to be a part of that exciting day. Thank you.
And if you look close at Evie, you'll see in between two of the kids who are in front and center, there's our executive director right there on Evie. But you have to zoom in to find his face. Where in the world is Daryl is what that looks like.
I gotta say, I had family at the parade like, did you see Daryl? He looked so happy.
I wonder why.
Thank you, Brandy. Okay, signage.
Yeah, well done. That's also a nice segue from our team that designed Evie. They've also been hard at work updating our facilities with the new brand. So new exterior signage is now up at all our facilities, and they also recently updated our minibus at the Cincinnati Children's Museum. So check that out. Great spot. Thank you to Bill, Jeff. Thanks to the facilities and body shop team for making us look good. Mr. Chairman, that's the news.
Okay, thank you all to the executive team there for reporting out.
Dan, I have one question.
Ms. Sheets.
Yes, back on the BRT open houses, what is the cadence of those updates coming back to this committee? I know Brandy mentioned that there have been some revisions, and I think it would be nice if the committee could hear those along the way.
Yeah, actually, just in the last meeting we had last week, we were discussing that point. So we'll be coming back to you next month with an update. Yeah.
And again, those invitations are available to all of us to attend if anybody's interested in attending one of those community meetings. I know you come to a lot of meetings. We all come to a lot of meetings as it is, but thanks for putting those invitations out there, Natalie. Okay, so briefing items. Let's go forward with the park and ride update. Jason and Haled. Oh.
Yes, thank you. Just I'll say a couple of things and then I'll turn it over to Jason. In addition to running about 3,900 bus stops, that's where people usually catch the bus, hop on the bus. We also have about 20 locations where people can park their cars and hop on the bus and to come to mainly to downtown. We usually try to locate the park and rides far from downtown because it doesn't make sense to have a park and ride very close to downtown, because if you've driven from Westchester all the way to a mile or two from downtown, you're just going to keep driving to your final destination. So this kind of strategically located where we think there is a demand for parking your car and hopping on the bus. Most of these park and rides serve the express route for that particular purpose. And before COVID, we would, update the board on these facilities once in a while. We haven't done it in the past few years just because of COVID, and the utilization rate has, gone down because of ridership on express routes specifically has been, down as well. But we thought it is time to bring this back, to life, I guess, and give you an update where we are and, a couple of things that we are planning for these facilities. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody.
Morning.
So the map you see before you depicts our 20 locations. 5 of those locations Metro actually owns. 7 locations we lease monthly, and then the 8 remaining are actually free with partnerships that we have for those suburban areas. Is that better? Okay. Next slide, please. So I'm going to take you through and give you some examples of some of our park and ride locations. This is our Blue Ash Park and Ride location. It is on Blue Ash Road. There's actually 2 parking locations at each end of Blue Ash Road. It serves our Route 3X, that's Montgomery to downtown. It runs Monday through Friday, and there's 30 parking spaces available. And as you can see in the picture on the right, there's a blue sign. It's very small, but it just kind of signifies that it is a parking ride location. The parking spots are clearly marked, and there's shelters at the location for inclement weather. There's also kind of a residential area in the background, as you might notice. Next slide, please. This is our Union Township Civic Center Park and Ride. This is behind the Jungle Gyms in Eastgate. It serves, we serve that area with 82X. There's 400 spaces on the facility, but we only utilize about 100, 125 of those spaces. That's just a little bit to the left of the parking island that you see there on the right-hand picture. Those are primarily where we park at. Next slide, please. This is the Forest Park Park and Ride location. This is a heavily used location in terms of transfers. We do a lot of bus routes that go through this location. So it has a business purpose other than just a park and ride location. As you can see there, it serves multiple express routes, the 20 to 23X to 67. There's approximately 120 spaces that's on that space, that facility. Clearly marked park and ride location with a monument sign and parking spaces. It's very recognizable as a park and ride facility. Next slide, please. And these are just some other examples. I didn't want to go through each one, but our Silverton Assessment Center is our access assessment center for access riders. It also serves as a park and ride location in that Kenwood area. As you can see, a nice big monument sign that clearly identifies as a park and ride location. We also use Queen City Racquet Club, which is in Sharonville next to the Convention Center. The Sims Township Park and Ride location is next to the administration building. And then our most utilized park and ride is the Kings Island facility that you see in the bottom right-hand corner there, which will be receiving some service improvements in later this year in August. But we'll be monitoring that location for ridership very closely. Here's just some data. The first two, the columns, average car count and average utilization, those are current ridership utilization. And then the 2019 just kind of shows the juxtaposition, the pre-COVID versus now. There are some locations that are actually outperforming pre-COVID numbers. Some of those locations, Forest Park and Myers Fields Earl, have received some service improvements, mostly in terms of frequency, where we previously provided routes to those areas once every hour. They're now getting service once every 30 minutes. But other than that, there really isn't much of a correlation that we can see at this time for the ridership percentages for the ones that have increased. Large in part, in general, the ridership utilization has decreased in terms of counting cars in the parking lot. We have looked at stop rider data to try to see if we can see the number of boardings and alightings per these locations. Some of them are very challenging because they are in some residential areas. Like Khalid said, we put them in the suburban communities to try to entice ridership and try to get some cars off the road, reduce pollution, and get folks to use bus service that previously might not otherwise use it. But they're also in some areas that are residential that folks can literally walk to the bus stop and get on the bus. Next slide, please. Some of the opportunities that the team has found for improvements of park and ride facilities is improved signage. As Khalid said, that we were looking at our strategies around park and ride locations pre-COVID. This is something that we identified back in 2019 and 2020. Having clearly identified monument signs on the locations and clearly identifying the spaces that folks can park goes a long way for improving ridership at those facilities. Wayfinding signs. If you've ever been up 71, you see the park and ride sign from 71 that kind of starts directing you to the Kings Island Park and Ride. I think it justifies why Kings Island has so much more ridership in some cases than some of the others, because from 71 all the way to the parking ride location, we let folks know how to get there. So I think improving the wayfinding at some of these other locations, as well as improving our website communication. When you go on our website, clearly letting folks know through a map, maybe some interactive features that show them what the park and ride might look like before they get there. So when they get there, they know I'm at the right place. These types of things I think would help boost our ridership, as we on the front side of folks coming back to work can get on the proactive end of helping boost our ridership through this service opportunity. Any questions?
Yeah, Jason, thanks for running through the data. I mean, some of the numbers are just utilization is quite low, obviously. So I got a question about how do we know if people are using this like a bus stop in the residential area? You alluded to it, but how do we measure that if people in the neighborhood are just walking there?
We
rather than parking
reconciled.
there?
Literally, I went to the locations and I counted the cars that were within the areas that we have designated as park and rides, and we reconciled the car counts versus the boarding counts at the stop level.
And so,
if I may also add that in some of these locations, let's say part of the Kroger parking garage or parking lot, usually the parking lot is a very isolated, far away portion of that parking lot, that people are not going to just park their cars there to go shopping or whatever. That doesn't mean that there isn't some of that happening, but it's a very low percentage.
Well, you tell us, but it feels like measuring the number of people on the bus at those park and rides would be as helpful as the car count.
Yeah.
And nationwide, the park and ride concept has been out there for decades now, right? How are other transit entities managing their park and ride utilization.
Well,
Darryl?
one of the things I can tell you is a lot of other transit agencies have continued to cut their service on their express routes. We believe it's going to come back, and we want to make sure that we're there for those customers when they do come back into the office. So we understand that the utilization is relatively low right now, but as we build our transit system, we don't want to remove what could be the future and then have to go back out and refine those spaces. So ridership is starting to come back on express routes, but much, much, much slower than the rest of the system.
And this is a good point, Mr. Chair. And previously, I mean, before 2020, we did used to make adjustments to the number of parking spaces because, at least once every 2 or 3 months, we'll have a full count of vehicles parked at the parking rights, the utilization rate, so we can go back and check. And between 2018 and 2019, we did adjust the number of parking spaces that for which we're paying. At least in 3 or 4 of the parking lots. The Kings Island was one of them. We used to have over 200 parking spaces. We reduced that to 160 because of that. To Darrell's point, we don't want to cut it too much that it's difficult to rent more spaces. But also, I think is it 12 or 13 park and rides are either we own or we don't pay for, right? About 12 or 13. So
yes, we own 5 of them, and 8 of them are free just with partnerships throughout.
So 13 of the 20 don't cost us anything. So we really don't need to make any adjustments to the number of parking spaces. It's for those for which we pay. We scrutinize that more, and we make adjustments to the number of parking spaces. And quite frankly, and Jason touched on that, I believe that, or many of us believe that one of the reasons for the low utilization, because it's still, it's a fact that it is relatively speaking low utilization rate even back in 2019, is the lack of good signage. When I first came here in 2018 and I wanted to visit these park and rides and I had the map of where the location is, I still had a difficult time finding them. Because of the lack of signage. And we kind of started to put a program to deal with that. And then COVID hit, ridership plummeted. There was no point of it. Jason is taking it on, on his shoulders now. He's already engaged the DAP program to come up with a plan to how we can improve the signage leading to the park and rides. And then, once you get close to it and once you enter it, all kinds of different types of signs so we can encourage more people to use these facilities.
So help me understand it, just one second, understand a little bit more about the operational costs in these routes. Are most of them, are they all express routes? Most of them express routes?
Almost all.
Okay. And then operationally, if the utilization is extremely low, how much use do we get out of that bus throughout the day, aside from the park and ride and with the operators? That's really my question. How do we measure that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think you're asking about, there are 2 pieces, right? There's the utilization of the lot, but then there's also the routes that serve those lots. And I think you're asking,
this
what about
question is about the routes.
Yeah, utilization of the routes, right?
Right.
And we're doing that on a monthly basis. We get ridership reports, and we're looking at the trends on those express routes. And I really think that this whole piece is an opportunity, right? If you've been on the interstates in the last 3 or 4 months, traffic is increasing, right? So the 2 big things that push people to park and ride, the price of parking downtown and the time it takes them that they're sitting in traffic in their car. So as those things start to increase, this is an opportunity to get more folks at those park and rides, which then will improve the utilization of those routes that serve those park and rides, if that makes any sense.
Another thing the park and rides serve as they're the end of the line, and it's usually a really nice place for operators to use a restroom, to have their layovers. So the park and rides are really good for our operators as well. It's the end of the line. They can go use the restaurant. They can have their layover at a park and ride. It's a really safe place for them to lay over.
In one regard, I look at it as like a mega stop for a route, but just curious. Pete?
Yeah, I generally agree with the philosophy, Daryl, that you laid out, that, we don't want, part of our success is that we didn't cut service when ridership was low and that the ridership has come back. I think at some point, though, we have to recognize that there's an opportunity cost to this service that we're providing here that could be somewhere else in the street. And I don't think we're at a point where we have to choose between one or the other. But when I compare this presentation with express service productivity, we haven't hit our productivity number in at least a year. I'm guessing we probably haven't hit our productivity number since much longer.
Yes.
And so I don't know when the time is, and maybe it's when we're forced to make a choice between this type of local service or that type of express service. But I do think we should be honest with ourselves that there are things we could be doing if we decided that the level of utilization is low enough here or in some small places. Not advocating that at that moment, but I think we just need to recognize that we could continue to improve service elsewhere if we decided that this was not.
So we have made several adjustments to our schedules on our express service. So it's not that we're keeping the same level of express service. We've made several adjustments to the express route schedules. Not to the point where people can't use it, but we have made adjustments. Thank you, Pete.
I don't know if I can hire Pete to work in my planning department, but that'd be great.
We'll talk after, Helene.
Okay, all right. No, because you're absolutely right, and the staff, they have some plans for that. One of the things that we wanted to do actually several months ago, but we couldn't because of the lack of drivers, and some part of the service changes package, is combining the 71 and the 72, make it more efficient. And exactly to your point. But we will be doing some of that.
Trent?
So I would like to see one specific piece of data. We have 7 or 8 places that we pay for. I would like to see those places by the utilization, because if we have 0 or 1 or 2, I don't think that it is a financially responsible decision for us to hope that that will change in the future. And so we as a board should probably re-examine, do we want to spend money for places that we know today have essentially no utilization? Because I couldn't get that from the information that was seen.
I'm happy to do that. I can tell you the 0 one there, we do not pay for.
Okay. But I would like to see, because even if it's 4, we should probably still talk about, do we want to spend 10,000, whatever the number is. And my second question, agree with Pete on his point. At some point, people have been back to work now for 3+ years. We got to cut stuff and reprioritize. So I would like, as the board, we say in X number of months, if we don't see a significant change, we're going to make the hard decision. Because talking about knowing we need to do it, if we don't put a date and a time and some sort of trigger threshold, we're probably not going to get to that point. So my recommendation would be 12 months from now, we look again, and if we have routes that just clearly aren't meeting it and have shown no significant increase, we think about ending those and doing something different rather than just hoping. So those are my 2 things, and I'd appreciate
The only thing I'd say is it's really not a hard decision. But if you could give us that data, on the specifics, the metrics within the park and ride, right? And it could tie to those ones that we pay for, but also the other indirect benefits and the indirect costs that we incur because of it. That would be helpful, I think, to all of us as a committee. Ms. Clark?
Yes, thank you. Absolutely agree with the aforementioned comments, but also you've got several communities. I know, obviously, speaking for ours, we're going through a whole revitalization development process. We're working on marketing strategies. We're working on our economic development plan for the next 10 years, and those are things like that, and those updates, and especially how high our utilization is in Forest Park. I think that we need to have those conversations so that we can help to carry that message, because it's going to bleed through a lot of different parts of our city, so that we can even help, of course, to increase ridership, because that's a huge benefit for our residents in terms of cost savings for them. So I would really like to see that type of a conversation to be had, because I know very specifically how it can be used.
Yeah, help us with the rationale. Why not? Why not close?
Can I ask one more question?
Mr. Metz?
Do we have...
Sorry, Brady.
Do we have any data from customers or feedback from customers who are either were utilizing these stations and aren't anymore, or who are utilizing them, to get a sense? I mean, the workforce downtown that's come back is much higher than the ridership that we're seeing today. So I'm just trying to get a sense of, have people's habits changed? Do we know any of that, or is it sort of it's harder to interview the customer you've lost than the customer you have? So I understand that.
No.
Okay.
No, we don't.
Yeah, that's.
I don't believe so. And one of the other things, people have begun to come back to work downtown. One of the challenges is a lot of people have come back 3 days a week, 4 days a week, which kind of changes habits and their cost structures. I don't know the future of what people will come back to. We just want to be prepared for whoever our future customer is. But those are all things that we absolutely need to be looking at.
Bree?
Curious as to the pictures that were showed, if we could kind of go back to those for just a second. I promise I'm not going to take up a lot of time here. Are these ones, okay, so obviously the Silverton location, but I'm just curious as to, in general, of the pictures that you showed, which ones are ours? That's what I'm trying to say.
So the ones that we own are Forest Park, Glenway, Crossing, the Northside Transit Center Park and Ride location, Silverton, and Oakley.
Okay, and the Northside Transit Center, that parking lot is owned by the business association, but we have a relationship there, right?
No. So
Metro owns that land.
yeah,
The
so
association owns
We
it.
own the park and ride.
Right, right, okay.
But the other lot, yes, we have a relationship, yes.
Okay.
yeah, we have about nine parking spaces in our park and ride at Northside.
But to everyone's point, Jason and Andy and Daryl and Khaled's point here, they're very uninviting. I'm sure there is certainly some potential in at least just some updates of those shelters and signage at the very least. Because if there is any opportunity for increased ridership, I mean, I'm not driving to that little sad shelter out in the corner, just to be honest. So some of them may still have potential.
My relationship with Park and Rides is relatively new since I've come on with SPD&I, and through going out into the community and seeing the locations and like Khaled trying to find where you're supposed to park so I can actually count the cars. It was really ambiguous. It was very challenging. I literally went back to some of our agreements and found the exhibits that showed the parking spot locations, and I don't know how the general public would be able to do that. So I think that Park and Rides is an older strategy that we were looking at pre-COVID on how to improve ridership, and then because of COVID, they kind of fell off of our radar. I agree with some of the comments about what our utilization is and what our business expenses are compared to what our returns might be, but I really think that putting an eye and an effort on improving communication, our website, signage, those types of things over the next year would be a good way for us to determine whether or not Park and Rides is a strategy we want to continue to utilize.
Yeah. Yes.
I know we're looking at the cost benefit, but I'm also curious for the ones that are ours and free, that there's no cost, but how much time would it add to, if we close the site that is free to us, the human power to get more buses out on regular rotation? Like, will that increase? Does that make sense? Right,
Yeah.
so I'm looking beyond just the dollars, but to get more but improving service.
Yes.
So I don't know what percentage of time this is taking.
That's all part of the analysis. You are absolutely correct.
Okay, well, thanks for the discussion, Jason. We look forward to your evolving relationship with Park and Rides and reporting out on the successes and maybe some adjustments in the program. Next item on our agenda, Dave, if you want to lead us through the fare restructuring presentation.
We'll start with me first, Mr. Driehaus.
Okay, Tim.
So I know it's a shock to everyone that I'm speaking here, not in finance, but here we are. So, it's your lucky day. It's your lucky day. So we have, as Mr. Etheridge said, we have a small wall of numbers here. Want to frame everyone before Dave gets up here and talks about our fare restructuring. When we did our 2025 budget, as everyone remembers, we kind of did a peanut butter approach and included a 10% fare increase in our budget. The budget was approved. We acknowledged at the time that we would be coming back for an approval for a fare increase, and this is, the first step of that we're going through there. With our budget, we had a 10% increase. We also kept our ridership flat and didn't make any adjustments based on any fare changes. Wanted to first off thank Haled and Steve Anderson. They did a Title VI analysis to make certain that there's not a disproportionate burden on lower income groups. And at the end of the day, we feel comfortable with a fair restructuring. One of the items the FTA guidance gives us is that if there is some type of disparity or disproportionate burden, if we have the ability to avoid, minimize, or mitigate, which we have, and Dave will go through there. Wanted to walk through, the left side is on the revenue, the numbers, kind of spot on to where we were. We came in at a 10.2% fare increase actually when we got surgical with the various fare structures. And that impact is about $1.3 million, $1.4 million for the year. And from an annualized standpoint, which is right on track with what we had budgeted, pretty close to that. Looking to our ridership, we, there's a regression analysis out there that's used in transportation or transit. It's called the Simpson-Curtin model. The Simpson-Curtin model, simply stated, when you have a fare increase, there is a ridership decrease, with all things being constant. And the Simpson-Curtin model, you would estimate a 10% fare increase would come into a 3.3% fare decrease. All things being equal, ridership, 3.3% ridership decrease with a 10% increase in fares. We believe that with the added, we have some fare capping, the rewards program, and other account-based ticketing, that any impact will be minimized. We believe it's going to be between 0 and 2%. The budget, when we prepared it, was in the 0% range, but we feel comfortable moving forward with this. And unless there's any questions, we'll let Dave go through the presentation and the timing on what we're going to be looking at here. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Tim. Dave?
Thank you and good morning. What I'm going to be showing you is basically a preview of what we will be presenting at the public meetings. We have one scheduled in person tomorrow evening from 5 until 7 p.m. on the third floor of the downtown branch of the Hamilton County Cincinnati Public Library. And then the following day, Thursday, we have two virtual public meetings, one from 10 until noon and another one from 4 until 6. We already have quite a few folks who have signed up through our online registration for the virtual public meetings. Basically, we start out by welcoming everyone and giving them the opportunity to provide feedback to us. We stress that this is a proposal only. None of this will actually happen until we take consideration all the feedback we received, and of course you approve it. We invite everyone to complete a comment form that will be available in English and Spanish at the public meetings. We also have an email address that we maintain for this purpose, routecomments@go-metro.com. And all the feedback that we received by midnight on the end of that week, we actually extended it to the Monday, on Monday, I believe it's the 21st, yes, to give people additional time to give us feedback. That'll all be considered as we present this to you later. We have a different one, obviously, for the online meetings, the virtual meetings. There is no way to complete a written comment form there, but we have the other options for them as well. So we start out by talking about all the things that we have accomplished since 2020 and since people were very supportive of us and our efforts. We have implemented 24-hour service on 7 routes. We've launched 7 new crosstown routes. We've expanded and improved weekend service and increased our frequency and span across most of the routes for even faster service. Obviously, we've launched Metro Now on-demand service in 2 zones with another one on the way. We've added free Wi-Fi and charging ports to our buses. We've installed 156 new benches and 30 shelters, and again, with more on the way. And through our Metro Transit Infrastructure Fund program, we've awarded more than $317 million to 104 regional projects. We've actually started the design process for Metro Rapid, and as you've heard, we're actually in the process of accepting station name suggestions. And clearly, more improvements are to come, and that's one of the reasons why we're proposing this fare restructuring. The number one objective of this is to begin our regular, modest fare increases that will continue to fund the Metro service improvements that we've begun under the Reinventing Metro plan. I would like to state, too, that this is only the third fare update that Metro has had in the past 20 years, so we've done a really good job of doing more with less. We also want to simplify our fare payment by matching the service type to the fare that you pay. Even with just 3 types of fares right now, it's still somewhat complex. Going forward, if this proposal is accepted, a customer will immediately know what their fare is based on the name of their route. If it's a route without an X in the name, it'll be this fare. If it's a route with an X in the name, it'll be a different fare. And that's the only way that they can differentiate. And as you all know, we have seen increased prices on just about everything that we buy in our personal lives. So by having a fare restructuring, we'll be able to keep pace with that inflation that is increasing our cost of doing business. And finally, as Tim mentioned, we're going to be launching the Ride and Save program to ensure that the frequent riders of our service pay the actual lowest fare that's possible. And that will combine with another program that we're getting ready to launch to make it even more advantageous for our customers to ride the bus for a lower fare. So just a quick overview of what this proposed fare restructuring is. As I mentioned, we're going to categorize our service as either local, which means it travels on surface streets, or express, which primarily means it spends a lot of its time on an interstate highway. That will be regardless of where they come from or where they go to or how far they travel. So all routes designated as local will have a proposed fare of $2.20 or a half fare of $1.10. All routes with an X in their title will be known as express, and their fare proposed will be $3 or $1.50 half fare. I mentioned half fare. That is a special fare that we offer to folks who are 65 and older or who have a qualifying disability through our Fair Deal program, as well as children who fall within the height markers that we have established on our bus for the children's fare. We will be actually eliminating the Suburban County Express fare, which currently applies to the Route 71 and the Route 82. The monthly sticker that we provide to those customers who are 65 and older with qualifying disabilities or veterans, it's known as the MVP program. That monthly sticker will go to $44 under this proposal. That provides unlimited rides for that monthly period on any route, regardless of local or express, for that one $44 price. And our access fare will go for one ride to $4.40 or a ticket book for $44, and that's a ticket book of 10 tickets. So that's a one-for-one price there. Some other things, our Metro Now on-demand service one-ride fare is proposed to go to $2.50, and 30-day rolling passes, which are good for any 30-day period from the first use to 29 days after. The price for local service will be $88. The price for express service will be $120, and the price for a Metro Tank 30-day rolling pass, which allows unlimited rides for that 30-day period on any Metro or Tank local service, will be $105. We're keeping that price the same to encourage the regional travel that we're already seeing and we want to continue to grow. We have a lot of ways for our customers to pay their fares. They can buy physical passes, as they always have been able to do. You can buy one from the sales office or through our ticket vending machines or at Metro's Fair Deal office, which is located at the Silverton Testing and Eligibility Center, or online through our website. Of course, customers are always welcome and encouraged to pay cash, but we'd like to see a lot less of that going forward. And to encourage other ways to pay their fare, we're going to be introducing the Ride and Save program. That guarantees the customer always pays the lowest fare automatically. They can purchase their fare right now and in the future under the Ride and Save program through the transit app with Easy Fare. That's a great tool for our customers. I use it every day riding Tank. It allows people to plan their trip, pay for their fare, and actually stay where they are, either in their office or their car, and watch as their bus approaches and then get out and get on the bus. I do it every morning at my park and ride. When it hits 2 minutes, I know to lock up and go stand at the bus stop. We're also going to be implementing Easy Fare smart cards as part of the Ride and Save program. They can be purchased at our sales office and relocated at both our sales office and some other participating retailers that we're currently working with. We'll actually publish that full list of those retailers on our website once this launches, but they are CVS, Walgreens, Family Dollars, and local Speedway locations. So rest assured there will be plenty of locations throughout our service area where customers can purchase these smart cards. So how does Ride and Save work? Well, instead of buying an actual period pass in advance, which customers can currently do, riders can actually preload value through the transit app with Easy Fare or through the use of a smart card. And every time they get on the bus, they tap their phone or they tap their smart card, and the fare is automatically deducted when they do that. Now, under Ride and Save, the program guarantees that they will pay their lowest fare over either a 24-hour or 30-day period. And once the customer reaches that 24-hour or 30-day threshold, they won't be charged for any additional rides during that same period. So as a perfect example, when a customer rides the bus 2 times in a 24-hour period, that's equal to the price of a day pass. They will actually, on their 3rd time that they ride within that 24-hour period, that ride will be free, as will any subsequent rides within that 24-hour period. The same applies for a 30-day period. It actually looks back through that time period and counts all those rides toward the cost of fare going forward. They're automatically tracking those fares as you use your card or your telephone on the bus, and so you really don't even have to do anything. It's automatically tracked for you. Keep scanning or tapping your card or scanning your phone, and it'll deduct a fare when it's appropriate, and it'll give you free rides when it's appropriate. The charges then resume at the start of the next fare period, whether it be 24 hours or 30 days. And as a result of this, we're no longer going to sell one-ride tickets, day passes, or 30-day passes within the transit app because there really won't be a need to. This is going to be a tremendous boon, we think, for people who ride frequently but don't have the money up front to pay for, let's say, a 30-day rolling pass at $88. This will actually reward them with the equivalent of a 30-day rolling pass as soon as they take that adequate number of rides within that 30-day period. Now, we're softly launching today the Rider Rewards Program. The reason we're softly launching it is because we want to make sure that it works and that it adequately and appropriately rewards people when they ride. And we've got a team of our own staff here that are testing this right now. But it's actually available through the transit app right now to our customers. And basically, the Rider Rewards Program allows people to earn points every time they ride. It allows you to do that 3 times a week. Each time you ride, you get a certain number of points. You can then apply those points to redeem for future rides or also for gift cards at participating retailers. You can also use them for towards your cost for Red Bike as well. And we have a robust marketing plan that we're going to launch once the soft launch period is over, and we're absolutely certain that this is adequately and appropriately rewarding our customers and there aren't any issues or anything like that. And once you put this program, earning reward points, with the Ride and Save program, if you go to the next slide, please, you'll be able to see that adds up to big savings for our customers. Every time they ride, they tap their phone, and 3 times a week they can earn points from that under the rewards program. As they're riding every day, they're accumulating rides toward the Ride and Save program, which will eventually, either within a 24-hour or a 30-day period, let them ride free. All those things combined will add up, as I mentioned, to big savings for our customer, and we are fairly certain that this will remove any concern that customers might have about the fare restructuring and its impact on their expenses. So I mentioned we have public meetings. Obviously, if we're at the in-person public meeting, we know where that one is. We will be having one on April 17th from 10 to noon. That's virtual. And we also have another one on April 17th from 4 to 6. That's virtual. You can go on our website and register for either one of these meetings. And we'll be going through this presentation as many times as we need to during that 2-hour period so that whoever comes, whenever they come, they can learn more about our proposed fare restructuring. As I mentioned earlier, we encourage feedback. That's the whole reason we're out here doing these. You can give us feedback at the live meeting by completing a form available from anyone. We'll have staff there at the back of the room. You can also go online if that's more to your comfort, and you can complete a comment form at a special web address that we've created, go-metro.com/input. You can also send comments to our special email address at routecomments@go-metro.com. And all feedback received by the end of Monday will be taken into consideration and presented in a summary report to the board before a final decision is made. Next slide, please. And we have a nice QR code here for any folks that want to come on up and scan, and they can take the online survey right here while we're at the meeting. And I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy day and attending. And that will be when we wrap up.
Dave, thank you. Are there any questions for Dave before he leaves the microphone? Mr. Metz?
Quick question and then a comment. On the, I don't remember what slide number I'm on, the elimination of the suburban county express fares, the Route 71 and Route 82, how are we treating those moving forward? Are those treated as express routes moving forward? Okay, cool. That's great. And then some of you may have seen that our friends at the Better Bus Coalition laid out some information about how we handle children riding, that we, based on their analysis, we tend to have a more stringent approach to fare structure for kids under the age of 10, let's say, than most other systems in our region. I think it was really smart and thoughtful analysis they did, and hopefully we can incorporate their analysis into our
Do we have age
feedback.
requirements?
I am sure that feedback will be part of of the public comments. And we do things a little differently. We do by height. Because, you know, a bus operator looking at a child and determining how old they are. But I'm sure that will be handled in the public comments. And again, we'll bring something back.
I think it's a smart time to consider whether we're making it as advantageous as possible for families to use transit. It's $8 for my whole family to ride one way. With two little kids, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I appreciate that height advantage with the my question is for tomorrow's meeting, what time is that at the main library?
Tomorrow's meeting will start at 5 p.m. and end at 7 p.m. And it'll be on the third floor, which is formerly called the Hunefeld Tower Room. It's actually the Tower Suite now of the main public library.
Andy?
And
just okay.
No, sorry.
KZ?
My question was similar to for the children. So the age is 10 and under? Is that
Well,
right?
it's I'll make sure to email around the posts that I've got it here.
Well, it's not age specific.
It's height
It's a height.
Yeah.
Currently, we have 2 height markers on every bus that indicate 25 inches and down. Children under 25 inches ride free. There's a height marker at 45 inches, so any child between 25 and 45 are half fare. Anything over 45 inches pays the full fare.
And this is all year?
Anytime, yes, unless we're offering
I was
a
wondering, how will that
promotional fare.
impact with the Cincinnati Public Schools?
We only offer tickets for 7th grade and 7th grade?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's mostly on the younger end.
So this would mostly be kids riding with parent or guardian.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point. Maybe I don't understand. If I had a monthly pass and I have family, is everybody in? Is it like a family pass or each person?
Each person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andy?
Yeah, and just to talk about next steps, right, and what you all can expect as a board. The public involvement process is having its intended effect, right? You all, through the budget process, said, let's look at a modest fare increase in line with our financial pro forma when it came to the Reinventing Metro plan long term. We've turned that into a very specific proposal that's now out in the community. We will make sure that this board gets 100% of that feedback back, but at the same time as staff, we're going to take that feedback and based on our analysis, if we feel like we have staff recommendations to make changes to the initial proposal, we would recommend that to you at the May meeting. So you'll get a summary, you'll get all the details, but you'll also get a staff recommendation. Does staff recommend making any changes to the initial proposal prior to you all taking action on a final proposal, if that makes sense in terms of next steps?
Yes, I'm a little unclear on the timeline. Is this becoming public just today, or was this public earlier?
This pretty much became public during our budget process.
Yes.
Because in our budget process, we had the conversation about a modest fare increase.
Yes.
So the community through social media have been talking about this fare increase since we did our budget
Yes.
last year. This is the first time we're going out to the public to talk about what the fare increase looks like, to get feedback from them.
Yes, I understand that. I'm wondering, with a deadline of providing comment on Friday, that seems kind of quick to me.
Brandy?
Especially if the meetings, we're publicizing the meetings.
To April 21st.
Okay.
So they will have a week, and it's actually on our website right now, so customers can start seeing the information today. They can leave the survey response, and then they're welcome to come to public meetings, as you guys heard about, tomorrow and the day after, and then it will remain on our site through Monday. So they'll have a week to leave public comment on the proposal.
Okay. That does still kind of seem quick to me.
Seems very quick.
So if we receive feedback that, well, first of all, can it be extended past Monday? And second, if we receive feedback from the community that more time is needed to give public comment, can we extend that? Because that seems like a short amount of time to get public feedback to me.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes to both of your questions, right? If we get feedback that there's not enough time for folks to provide their thoughts, we have the ability to do that. It'll crunch the time in which staff can then take that information and summarize it and make recommendation. Our thought also with a full week is that it's pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of complication to it. The things that are somewhat complicated are the benefit side of it, not necessarily, that's the fare capping and the rider rewards. But in terms of the fare increase itself, it's very straightforward, a 20-cent increase on the base fare. So it's one of the reasons we tried to compress this, is just so this board could hear what the community had to say and act on it relatively quickly. But I think that we'll see if we get a lot of feedback that it's not enough time, we'll have to pivot.
One of the themes is about the incremental approach rather than the huge increase. And 3 increases over 20 years is what we heard. Now, in the next 5 to 10 years, I wonder how many increases the public can anticipate. That would be one of the questions I'd be asking. Neil?
So my worry about the quick turnaround, I understand that you want to be able to report back to us by next week. My worry is less that you won't get feedback that it's not enough turnaround time. It's that you won't get feedback because it's not enough time. Does that make sense?
If I may, just speaking from my personal experience at other agencies going through the same thing here, if there are any major concerns, we're going to hear from them in those meetings. That's where people are going to come and they're going to voice their concern. And to Andy's earlier point, if we get any of such feedback or concerns or whatever, certainly we're going to take that into consideration, whether we need to do more of outreach or extend the deadline and so on. But typically from other experiences, if there are concerns, issues, we're going to hear about them in the meetings themselves, and we'll keep you appraised on that.
Tina?
Sorry.
Was the increase incorporated in this year's budget already?
It was, yes.
And we also understand that lack of feedback is actual feedback. So we could pivot if we don't get feedback.
I think there's also some history to consider here. We've gone through a massive fare simplification project a few years back, and then we're out in front in some ways of what I think our riders want with the fare capping model, which is it's kind of brilliant, and it is in some ways a further simplification of writing. You don't have to sit down at the beginning of the month and say, all right, am I buying a monthly pass or am I just gonna go there? I'll just ride, and then whatever happens. And so I think that we're doing a lot to be out in front, and I hope we get some positive comments. I'm more curious about the good ideas that come from our writers, because honestly, I really appreciate the Better Bus Coalition coming out and saying, let's make it easier for people who are riding with young people. And what can we do to make that work? Because we want them to ride, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I first read the comments, I don't know, a few weeks ago about age, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, really, is this right? Then I find out it's really based on height, and then we have these different height models. There's probably some opportunity to simplify that and make it easy for families to ride. And there may be some other good comments that come out. And that's what I really want to hear. And I want us to pivot on that and make it so people want to ride the bus.
Yeah, I guess when I look at it, I mean, just from a financial standpoint and looking at how it engages the community, you know, we're looking at these public engagement events as an opportunity. It's one aspect of getting an opportunity to listen to our customers and our riders on what's important to them. And we've shown as a group here that we can be nimble and flexible. And so we are looking at this as an opportunity.
And the engagement will happen over the course of years, not just months, if we have incremental increases in fares. So this is an enormous opportunity for the public to weigh in my opinion. So just.
I think a lot of other transit agencies are quite jealous on how we're able to bring something to the forefront to the people without a lot of pushback. I've really not heard anything other than some good responses, honestly. And you know, they can't wait to let you know if there's some errors. But it's wrapped up so well, and you've got so many layers of opportunity and savings, if you will, and rewards for people. People are really appreciating that.
What we're proposing is extremely modest compared to what a lot of other transit agencies are actually doing right now.
Within our models going forward, were our ridership expectations decreased by 3.3% based on when the fare increase would be added?
I think we budgeted zero.
We budgeted, that's correct. We didn't anticipate any decrease, and it's unclear whether we will see a decrease with this fare restructuring. We're not calling it an increase, but a fare restructuring, just because of the added value. And I think Dave there it highlighted it so well that a rider, a customer of ours, they don't have to worry about finding the money to buy a full monthly pass. Once they ride it, they get the benefit of it. So we believe that these adders, these sweeteners, as I like to call them, will more than offset any decrease, but the time will tell.
Right. So we're trying to mitigate that
Yes.
Simpson curve or whatever it's called
The Simpson
by
curve, yep.
adding benefits as well.
We're putting these in, close to the same time for that reason.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll also add that we have and will continue to do a robust amount of community awareness about
Brandy, microphone, please.
I'll add that we have and will continue to do a robust amount of community awareness around the meetings. Per board policy, we put out a legal notice last week in the paper. This morning, there was some media about it as well. We continue to use our social media channels. We have sent email blasts to all of our customer communication people who signed up for us from email and text that goes to tens of thousands of individuals. We've sent out text alerts. We've sent out push notifications through the app. So we have used every platform we have to reach our widest net of customers. So as far as the awareness part, we are utilizing our tools to connect with tens of thousands of our customers about the meeting. So there's a great deal of awareness around that. Awesome. You see it in the app.
There we go. Okay, thank you, Dave, and thanks everybody for the input. Moving on to the next item, the RTC flood operations. Bill talked about this earlier. You want to lead us off?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Driehaus. I'm here, and I've asked Mike Weil to join us if there are additional questions. Mike somehow has ended up being our primary coordinator on the Riverfront Transit Center. I think it's one of those things that you get that assignment and then you keep it forever. If you recall, and if you're aware, and if you've seen this, the Riverfront Transit Center actually was completed in 2001, and yes, I was part of the project that helped put that in place. It's actually part of the Fort Washington Way reconstruction project. And it is actually part of the north wall of the transit center is actually the flood wall that keeps the water from going into the interstate section. So it's designed to flood. You start with that. It was designed so that it would hold water, it would flood. It was actually dead space that the city couldn't figure out what to do, so it was engineered to take this up and put in a transit center. So we're able to use it. If you've seen it, you know we have parking bays there. But the issue is it is subject to flooding when the river reaches about 56 feet, which that is exactly what happened. On April 4th, we mobilized with the city and went down there and evacuated the transit center the best that we can. Now, there's obviously a bunch of fixed equipment, wiring, all those kinds of things that can't be moved. But we put the elevators up on 2nd Street. We removed all of our equipment that could be removed, learning a lesson from 2018, which was the last flood that occurred that caught us very quickly as those floodwaters came up very fast. So we were able to mitigate it, and as you can see, it flooded. There is damage. There's a lot of cleanup that has to be done, so we're beginning that cleanup process, but there's still a lot of work to be done there. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, and you can see it essentially became the Riverfront Transit Center River. The water was all the way through the transit center, and remember, this is multi-blocks of flat space that floods. So we've got an extensive amount of cleanup to do. Our initial target is to try to be back open by the end of April. Our assessments that are going on now may slide that a little bit, just because of the extent. As you can imagine, even though we've removed a lot of the equipment that we could, there's still wiring, there are still switch boxes, all kinds of equipment affixed to walls that cannot be removed. So we've got a lot of work to do there. We've just started the cleanup process. So just wanted to bring you up to date on that, and it's certainly something, and Mr. Driehaus and I spoke about this, as you think about whether Government Square could be moved to the transit center, the answer is yes, unless the river comes up, and at which point we would have to be completely removed from the transit center. There are flood doors, but they only go in like the office areas to try to mitigate the water that goes into those areas. But as I said, it's architecturally designed to hold the water out of the interstate system. So,
Bill, I'd like to thank you and Mike for the prep work before the flood to make sure there was minimal damage. You guys did an outstanding job to minimize whatever damage that the flood would have caused. So I want to thank you guys publicly.
Thank you. And Jeff's team had a big part, played a huge part in that as well, facilities maintenance.
Thank you, Jeff.
Mr. Chair, just real, as a reminder to me, the funds that we utilize to do repair damage comes from a separate Riverfront Transit Center fund, correct?
Yes,
from the city of Cincinnati.
There are parking lots on the aprons outside the transit center, and all of that revenue goes into a fund for the transit center maintenance, yes.
But is my understanding correct that the funds come from there, but we are still responsible for fixing the issues that are identified? Maybe a dumb question. Like, Mother Nature's going to win when she wants to win. It's designed to be flooded, but you mentioned like switch boxes and wiring. Like, as we're fixing those, are we raising them above what is a, I don't know, the 50-year flood height? Because if this is a 25-year-old thing, it's flooded before.
All part of the process, and we are looking at all of those things right now. Yes.
Okay, thanks for reporting it. Mike, do you want to add anything?
Now, I'm up here for questions. If anybody had any questions, I'm happy to help.
Okay. Well, Bill hit on an important subject there regarding the transit center and the Government Square and the opportunities that may be lost or unforeseen that might come up again. I don't think flooding's going to be reducing in the next few decades. So let's move on to our next item, ridership and service quality. Neil, okay. Okay. Well, thanks. So Haled and Bill, who wants to take the lead on this one?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Ridership report. The month of March, we had over 1.1 million riders on fixed route. Even though it is about 4% lower than budgeted, yet it was higher than last year's March. The good news here is the budget was based on ridership increase due to service changes that we're going to implement over the past several months. We had 2 cycles of those, which we weren't able to implement due to hiring of drivers. So despite the fact that we weren't able to implement these service changes, which would have netted us additional ridership, we were still very close to target and yet higher than March of last year. Next. On access, we carried almost 15,000, lower than budget by 3.9%, and lower than last year. We're still looking into that. The weather may have been a reason, but also the usage of Metro Now, which we're still investigating as well. But overall, ridership has been fairly healthy.
Before you go any further, one of the things I also like to point out, the beginning of this year, the first quarter, was really unusual. We had a lot of snow. We had a lot of very, very cold weather, and we've had a lot of rain. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with a slow start in ridership. I'm sure as the weather gets better, that we'll see our ridership start to grow. Ridership is affected by rain, and we've had a lot of rain. We had a lot of snow and a lot of very cold days for the first quarter of this year.
And just to put things in perspective for access, I mean, this is kind of on demand. So people's preferences change, their behavior change, and so their request for trips also change. It's not something that we control. Fixed route, we're running the service anyway, so it's certainly we would love to see more and more people using the service because the buses are running anyway. On access, it is on demand, but we are providing all the trips that have been requested. Next slide, please. Metro Now, that service just keeps surprising us in a good way. We have seen the highest ridership jump ever, I guess. Ridership was almost 11,500 for the month of March, just over 1,000 more than the previous month, which is great. We're not complaining. So this has been a great service, and we are happy to say that in June we're going to implement the 3rd zone in Forest Park, and then by Q4 the 4th one in Blue Ash, and we'll keep you updated on these implementations. Next slide. Just some stats on these services. The local service productivity for the month of March was 15.1, just under the 15.9 target of passengers per hour. Express, is climbing up. We carried almost 8.8 passengers per trip versus the target of 11.4. But for the past few months, it's been going up. On access, we're just short of 2 passengers per hour versus the target of 2.2. Metro Now, we're still working on establishing these KPIs, but we did carry 3.5 passengers per hour during the month of March. And I'll turn it over to Bill.
That'll tag team with me. I will hit on the service quality section of the report, beginning with on-time performance for all 3 of our modes. We start with the fixed route system, and you can see that we are slowly but incrementally recovering and improving on our on-time performance. So for the 3rd month in a row, we saw some improvement on time performance, and you can see how we're doing there versus our goal. We're slightly below our goal, but we continue to work on that every day. And as I go through this report, you'll hear a little bit more about what affects those numbers. Access, we had a really good month in March for access, beating our on-time performance goal. And so that was a positive story for us. And then you can also see that on Metro Now. On the next slide. And you can see that we continue to have a very high on-time performance for Metro Now as well. As we switch to missed trips, the chart that I can't wait for when this is so close to zero that we don't even have to talk about it, but we're not there yet, but we've made an incredible amount of progress if you look at those blue lines versus the green lines. We've had a little bit of a drop back in terms of our ability to recruit, hire, and maintain our workforce. So we've had a little bit of slippage, but we have a good plan in place. And just yesterday, we had one of our largest recruiting classes that we've had in quite some time. So we continue to work on that. As I made reference on the on-time performance, this is one of the ones that affects that because it changes a little bit the way we're able to operate the service. So we'll continue to work hard on missed trips. We've got a lot of things in place that we didn't have a couple of years ago that assist us with managing this metric. As we switch and we look at customer service reports, this is one that I really like. I'm excited about. We started tracking ourselves a little over a year ago with this metric, and you can see the progress that we've made there. And this is a reflection of the total number of complaints. It's not about ones that we've determined are valid or invalid. It's just the sheer number of complaints that come in, and then we measure ourselves against the ridership that we have. So good progress there, and we continue to monitor this item as well. And then we go to our fixed route miles between mechanical service interruptions, and you can see we made progress there in March, and we were able to improve that metric. We continue to stay focused on our preventive maintenance program and improving our service quality with our fleet as well. And I think that does it, Mr. Chairman.
Blake?
On those last two slides,
Yes.
right? The previous one, we want that number to be lower.
Yes.
And then on the next one, we want it to be higher. I think
Yes.
that miles between mechanical service interruptions, KPI, can be a little tricky. We want to go as many miles as we can.
Yes.
Before there's a mechanical problem. So you want that one to go up.
Right.
Okay, Hala and Bill, thank you for reporting out. Appreciate it. John, would you like to walk us through our action items, of which there are 6 on our agenda?
Yes, sir. 6 of them here. We'll walk through the matrix. Starting at the top there, we're seeking board approval to modify our contract with Paycor for our HRIS system. This is originally a 10-year contract at a cost of $1.3 million. This would be a $131,000 modification, mainly due to higher increased employee headcount. So we use this system for payment purposes, employee benefits, performance management, a whole number of services you can imagine as headcount is increased. We're looking to possibly exceed that spending authority for this contract. So seeking approval there for the modification in a sole source award format. As a reminder, it's a 10-year contract set to expire the end of 25. Next up is seeking approval for a sole source contract modification with WSP to be our continued alternative energy consultant. This is originally a $98,000 contract. We're seeking to modify it with an additional $29,000 in spend. We engaged WSP to help us build a zero emission transition plan for the Access and Metro Now fleets. These transition plans are required to be eligible for low emission or no emission federal grant awards. This modification would be to focus on 60-foot battery electric buses as the potential fleet for the BRT service. So seeking to modify the WSP contract to study that fleet and create that zero emission transition plan. Next up, we're seeking approval of a contract for architectural and engineering services regarding the retaining wall at Queensgate. Our property there where the buses drive coming out of the garage sits a little bit higher than McLean Street below it to the east. This would be architectural and engineering firm services to redesign, replace, rebuild that retaining wall. It's about 1,600 feet long, but then also getting engineering services for concrete driving surface replacement at a great deal of the Queensgate facility. This would be an $868,000 contract, run for about 4.5 years. Of note, it also has a 15% XBE spend of $118,000, and the XBE subcontractors proposed would all be new partners to Metro. We're seeking approval of that contract to contract with Michael Baker International. Next up, our long-range transit plan. So beyond reinventing Metro, beyond what we would term the short-range transit plan, the long-range plan. This is its long-range counterpart. So how our team targets a year 2040 with integrating innovative technologies, demographic changes in the regions, and so on. We are seeking to contract with Alfred Benesch and Company to the tune of $606,000, spread over 2 calendar year budgets, 25 and 26. Of note, this contract would be funded 80% by federal grant awards. It also has approximately a 25% XBE spend of $147,000. Of those 4 XBE subcontractors, 2 would be new partners to Metro. Next up, our operations, I should say, it's broader than bus operators, our uniform supply contract. You'll recall recently we had to add some spend to the existing contract. That contract is set to expire this year. We're seeking to engage Galls in a new 3-year contract totaling some $1.5 million over the 3-year period, and this would cover transit operations uniforms for bus operators, but also various support staff, dispatch teams, supervisors, and the like. Last, we have seeking approval to enter into a contract with Jostin Construction. This would be to construct, rehab, refurb our fare box technicians in their work area. This team has an increasing amount of work to maintain our fare box and collection systems. This is very old equipment. It's outdated equipment. We're leaning on this equipment a lot more frequently as we continue to expand service. Also at Queensgate in the maintenance end, as we continue to grow, workspace is at a premium and even a challenge to find a room for everybody. This would be a $598,000 contract to renovate our facilities to account for the work needed for this team. Of note, this would be a 100% XBE spend. For the month, we have total awards for the month of $3.8 million, 22% of that, $864K in the XBE arena, and year to date, that brings us to north of $2.7 million, or 21% of our addressable spend. That's a high-level overview of them. We certainly have the team here ready to answer any more detailed questions.
There's a lot there. Questions? Anyone? Trent?
So nothing specific about these proposals. However, and if this has been covered in the past month and I wasn't here, I apologize. Given the new administration and the focus on diversity spending and things like that, have we discussed internally what it will look like if or when a directive comes down, like how we adjust? Okay.
Yeah, certainly we're monitoring that landscape. To date, there's been just very, even to call it high-level guidance, is probably dressing it up. FTA has not come out with a stance yet or direction for recipients such as ourselves. So, but yes, a space we certainly continue to monitor. No hard requirements yet. Anybody else with points to add?
The only thing that I'd like to add to that is we learned 3 or 4 weeks ago about, for example, the low-no program that John referred to, low emissions, no emissions. We were wondering about, that's part of the federal transportation bill, 5-year bill, what's going to happen with that program. FTA was holding all of the awards associated with that program, and 3 weeks ago released $2.5 billion worth of low-no funding for low and no emissions vehicles. So to John's point, we haven't seen a U-turn, but we also haven't seen guidance about the next cycle, right? So eyes and ears are all over it.
Great question, but I can assure you we're talking about all of that, not just in our procurement department, but in our organization. And we are having internal conversations about all of that. Great question.
I'm
One of the
curious.
go ahead, Chelsea.
I'm curious about the long-range plan. When was the last time we did something like that?
Question.
Well, that says it was a short-term plan. This is
Very, very good.
range plan.
Yeah, very good question. The Reinventing Metro plan would kind of fall into that category. This long-range plan, and typically any transit agency will have a long-range plan that's looking at least 10, 15 years ahead. And then we have the short-range plan, which is about 3 to 5 years. And then we have the service changes. So this particular one, the term is, they'll look at the terms till 2040 in terms of what kind of, and I'll have Amy maybe would add a little bit to that. She's managing that. They would look at not only the changes in terms of the demographics, the socioeconomics, and all businesses coming in, but also the technology, the preferences, so that we can make long-term strategic investments. For example, this morning we're talking about park and rides. This is a good example, but it may be outdated now, and that's part of the long-range plan. Is maybe they expect some high-density developments in a certain area where we need to grab a piece of properties for a future park and ride while it's still available. Because 10, 15 years from now, when we need that, there won't be any parcels available for us. But also it looks at the technology, investments. The long-range plans typically don't look at routes design because that's way too far in the future, but the overall what the agency may need and the entire community in terms of transit. Emmy, do you need to add anything to it?
To give you an idea on Reinventing Metro, that long-range plan actually started in about 2008, 2009. So what we took to the ballot in 2019, we had actually started working on that plan about 10 years earlier than that. So that was at that time our long-range plan. We've got a 25-year tax levy, so we now have to start working on what's next because we only have 2 phases left of Reinventing Metro. So now's the perfect time to start really looking long-range of what's next for the transit agency.
Okay.
Can you help us understand how the funding works? It says combined federal aid and local 80. How does it work for this planning part? What I'm getting at is for the long range transit plan, 80% is federal funded and 20% local funding.
Yeah, 80% of the 600,000. Go ahead, John.
Local funding, Mr. Drewhouse, is our cash.
Right. So the 80%, is it common for transit agencies to go to the federal government and get these funds?
Yes.
All across the country?
Yeah.
That's really, okay. And our spend here, this 20%, is how much of this overall amount? Is it this amount or is it?
120,000.
We're 120. Okay. All right.
Yes, the Metro obligation is 20% of the total contract value. So if you're looking at the $128,000, the Metro obligation will be 20% of that, or roughly $24,000. If you're looking at the $600,000 contract for the long-range transit plan, our obligation is 20% of that, or roughly $120,000.
They expect us to have these long-term plans on the books as we go seek other opportunities for fulfilling what we plan for long-term, I would think.
Yeah, it's one of the things the board every year gives us authority to do is to go out for grants. So we're always looking for grants to pay for as much of anything that we have long-range to do. We're always looking for grant dollars to help pay for that.
To be clear, though, the 606 is what's booked to our budget. It's just that the grant revenue flows into our budget as well as revenue. Okay.
So that's capital side. No, actually, that's on the long range plan. So the amount that's in our budget is our 20%, not the full amount.
Okay. Thanks for coming up. Any other questions or comments on any of the 6 action items? Okay. So we're in committee now. I don't know that we need to have discussion at the board meeting on these items. So I'll put forth a motion to put these 6 items on consent. Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Metz seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we'll move those 6 items to our consent agenda next week. So thanks for the discussion today. Is there new business to discuss? Okay, that's a wrap for our committee. Thank you.
If I may, we can go into one more meeting for today. We have a special full board meeting. I'm going to call that into order. We've said the pledge, so let's just keep rolling. The first item on this agenda is approval of the board minutes from March 25. I'm not sure if anybody had a chance to review that. If not, we could table that to the full board meeting next week where we normally do it. I'm going to admit I was not able to review those. So Natalie, if it's okay, could we just review those minutes next week? All right. So
We'll table them to the next meeting.
Table them to the next meeting, yes. So next we have a report out from the Governance and Nominating Committee. Mr. Driehaus.
Yes, we met bright and early this morning, and we have a need to fill our vice chair seat. And the nominating committee and the governance committee met briefly to discuss. There are a lot of great people on the board, and one of those great people to represent us in the vice chair position is Sarah Sheets. And so we put forth the nomination. It was seconded and unanimously passed to put forth Ms. Sheets' nomination to be vice chair of our board. That's my report.
At this point, I'd like to entertain any other nominations for a board member to take the vice chair position. Okay, hearing none, I think we proceed into voting. And that is a roll call vote. And
Motion second.
I should make a comment. Like we had a discussion about Ms. Sheets as well, like, and how awesome she has performed in her role as a committee chair and civically in our community beyond the room, the walls of this room. So I didn't mean to understate that. During the committee, we talked quite a bit about it. So thank you for volunteering to serve, and we're excited to vote on you today.
so I was going to say nice things after, but so no, it's all good. It's all good. So procedurally, I can say that the nominations are closed, and then the voting would pursue after that. But I think I just heard that we should have a motion. So Dan is the chair. Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we appoint Ms. Sheets as vice chair of our board.
All right. Now I think we can move forward with roll call.
Ms. Samat?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Driehaus?
Yes.
Mr. Etheridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Metz?
Yes.
Ms. Moss? Yes. Ms. Sheet? Oh, no, sorry. No, Ms. Sheets. Mr. Smith? Thank you.
My understanding is the motion passes. Sarah, congratulations.
Yes.
You can say something. I want to also say I'm very excited about it. Working on infrastructure with you has been absolutely amazing. Your insight, your wisdom brings a lot to this board. So thank you. You want to say something?
Yeah, just briefly. Thank you. Thank you for electing me vice chair. And I just admit that I was quite shocked and humbled to be asked to serve in this role. I didn't quite know what I was getting into when I joined the board a few years ago. And in the last 3 years, I have been consistently in awe and impressed with this organization, with our staff, with this board. And it is just an honor to come here every month and contribute what I can representing the community as a city appointee. And I just look forward to the next few years and all of the growth and good things that I know are going to happen here. So thank you for your support, and I just can't wait to keep going. Thank you.
have a few other updates. Infrastructure Committee will now be taken over by Mr. Driehaus, and we're very excited about him taking on that role. I think it aligns a lot with your interests, and it's an interesting project, as Sarah can attest to. And then Pete Metz has agreed to take on planning and ops moving forward. And I think it's okay to say that, Dan, you could report out next week on planning and ops, and then Pete will take over next month. All right? Thank you. Congratulations. This may be the briefest board meeting of all time. I don't think anyone's going to complain. So if there's no other new business, I think we're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.